This was the scene on Friday morning at the Vatican in anticipation of this weekend's papal consistory. Clerics representing Catholic communities around the world answering reporter inquiries as they discussed the honor they felt at their elevations to the College of Cardinals. 21 men chosen by Pope Francis are receiving the red hat on Saturday at St. Peter's Basilica, including the Archbishops of Tehran, Tokyo, and Toronto. With this new crop of cardinals, we take a look now at some of the notable names and faces joining the college. The Catholic Church's creation of cardinals has captured the world's attention for centuries.
A large audience watches Pope Paul VI holding the fourth public consistory for the consecration of 30 new cardinals.
Receiving the red hat means these men are now considered princes of the Church, second only to the Pope in church hierarchy. They are responsible for electing the next pope, and more likely than not, it's one of them whom will be named the next pope. With such great responsibility, each appointment is closely watched, including this latest slate of 21 cardinals elect.
Well, there's one that stands out to me in particular, and I haven't seen much about him, and that is the Archbishop of Toronto. Frank Leo is like a rising star.
That rising star, 53-year-old Cardinal-elect Francis Leo, is the only delegate from North America this consistory. He recently spoke with EWTN News about the need to defend against the evil of euthanasia.
We must keep firm in our faith, proclaiming the gospel of life and the civilization of love.
Dr. Kurt Martens, canon law professor at the Catholic University of America, explains that canon law requires any cardinal designate to at least be ordained a priest. If he is not yet a bishop, he'll need to either be ordained a bishop before becoming a cardinal or receive a dispensation from that requirement. There are 3 cardinal-elect priests in this crop who fall under that category. Father Timothy Radcliffe is a 79-year-old English Dominican priest who's caused controversy, including for past comments on same-sex relationships, saying they can be expressive of Christ's self-gift. He recently served as the spiritual advisor to the Synod on Synodality in Rome. Catholic historian Dr. Miles Pattenden puts Radcliffe's appointment into perspective.
There does seem to be very much a sense that this is a reward for his service. He's already very much towards the end of his time as a voting cardinal. He turns 80, I think, in just a matter of months' time now. So he probably won't be voting in the next conclave, but this is a very important honorific.
Another priest who's been appointed a cardinal, 51-year-old Monsignor George Jacob Kuvakad, originally from India, is better known as Pope Francis's travel agent because he organizes the Pope's trips around the world. This church expert suggests Kuvakad's diplomacy background may be an advantage for his new role and for his future, given global world events.
If you look at the number of people who have been appointed from that crop of Secretariat of State who have some diplomatic service done to the Holy See in their ecclesiastical career, will that have or will that not have an impact on the outcome of a future conclave?
Another notable name in this consistory is Bishop Mykola Bichok, a Ukrainian Greek Catholic prelate who, at age 44, will become the youngest member of the College of Cardinals. But it's not just his young age drawing attention. Some Vatican watchers have raised whether his appointment is an insult to His Beatitude Sviatoslav Shevchuk, the primate of the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church, who at times has been critical of Pope Francis's response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Bichok's appointment may also be a signal to church leaders in Australia, where he resides.
It's also, to some extent, a rebuke to the Australian Catholic Church, because, again, there is no red hat once more for the Archbishop of Sydney, Anthony Fisher, who is a very well-known figure throughout the global church, especially in the Anglosphere.
21 new red hats, meaning Pope Francis will have appointed about 80% of the Catholic cardinals tasked to elect the next pope. Joining us now to discuss this weekend's consistory and the significance of Pope Francis's selections, we are joined by Frank Rocca, Senior Vatican Analyst for EWTN News. Frank, thanks for being with us. First, is there anything you wanted to add about the cardinals-elect that we highlighted?
Well, I think there are a few perhaps interesting facts about the Cardinal designate Kuvakad. It's not actually the first organizer of papal trips to become a cardinal. John Paul II made the organizer of papal trips Cardinal Tucci, but he made it went after the age of 80. So he was a retired cardinal, but he wasn't a cardinal elector like Cardinal designate Kuvakad. As for Cardinal Bichok, Cardinal designate Bichok, it's interesting to note that some people say that, in fact, it wasn't intended as a slight to Archbishop Shevchuk, the head of the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church, but in fact reflected more concern that had Pope made Cardinal Shevchuk, had made Major Archbishop Shevchuk a cardinal, it would have been really provocative to the Russians because, of course, our Major Archbishop Shevchuk is a big booster of the Ukrainian war effort and the defense of Ukraine in this war. So that's another way of looking at it. And finally, about Archbishop Leo, I would note that although he's the only North American and the closest thing to someone from the United States, he actually does have a link with the United States. He studied and taught at the University of Dayton in Ohio. So that may give him a little bit of status as an honorary American.
Right, that's important context there. And Frank, a number of the cardinals-elect made themselves available for interviews on Friday. You had the chance to speak with one of them, Father Timothy Radcliffe, and you asked him about his outreach to Catholics who identify as LGBT while adhering to church teaching on sexuality. Let's take a listen.
I really came in contact with that community through my work with people suffering from AIDS. That's when I got to see how much love and compassion there was in that LGBT community. In all my years of working, it's very rare people raise the issue of chastity. I think most of them know that I stand by the teaching of the Church. So they don't come to me to find easy ways out. What they want in the first place is friendship, welcome, and recognition that they are, like all of us, fellow disciples seeking to follow the will of the Lord.
Frank, what did you take away from that exchange?
Well, I think it's interesting that the Father Radcliffe wants to stress that he does uphold Catholic teaching on sexuality, which is a controversial position in some quarters. He said it's holy and humane, but he wants to stress welcome. He wants to stress outreach. But it's interesting because he's often seen, perhaps from a distance, as being less faithful, let's say, or less traditional on this matter. He, for example, expressed some doubts about the reasons that the African bishops, for example, rejected fiducia supplicans, which gives permission for blessings of same-sex couples. And so he's saying, no, he wants to welcome, but he wants this teaching is, he said, it's holy and it's humane. The teaching on sexuality, and he said we don't need a new teaching on sexuality, even a pastoral theology of sexuality. So I thought that was interesting.
Frank, canon lawyer Dr. Kurt Martens made the point to me that St. John Paul II would more frequently convene all the cardinals together in Rome, while Pope Francis has limited those meetings. Here's what he told me.
The advantage of that was that all the cardinals were brought together outside a conclave, outside a pre-conclave, and got to know each other. Pope Francis has actually held only one such consistory at the very beginning of his pontificate, but the cardinals have never seen each other as a group together.
Now, obviously, Frank, we cannot predict when the next conclave is going to be, but what kind of impact does it have that there have been so few opportunities for these cardinals to meet in person?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, Pope Francis did have a couple of extraordinary consistories right before consistories early in his pontificate. That gave the opportunity for cardinals to meet and to even stand up and raise issues in private. And we know that there was some pushback from some of the cardinals about the Pope's openness toward communion for the divorced and remarried early in that period. And so it may be that this reflects a kind of reluctance on the part of Pope Francis to have a sort of free-for-all for everybody to sort of stand up and sort of say his piece in front of other cardinals. And so maybe he would like more control of the situation. That's one way to read it. In any case, it's true that the most important single task and duty of a cardinal is to vote for the next pope in a conclave. conclave. But the cardinals are traditionally seen as the popes. They were called the Pope's Senate. They're supposed to be a body of advisors. Now, it's true that Pope Francis has drawn on many cardinals as advisors, and he established this Council of Cardinals, which meets every couple months, and it helps him in governance of the global church and the reform of the Vatican. But he doesn't seem to want the cardinals as a whole to play this role that way, in that traditional way. The impact on the conclave is to make it more unpredictable, because a lot of the ones that work in Rome all know each other very well, of course, and there are a few figures, especially Cardinal Parolin, the Cardinal Secretary of State, who travels all over the world, and he's known by all the cardinals. But otherwise, a lot of these men don't know each other at all, and what they know they get from the press. With all the shortcomings that implies. And so when they come here, a lot of these people will really be looking around, wondering presumably where to go, and that will probably make certain figures very important as influencers, but that's all very speculative. But it makes things less predictable.
Frank, we have just about under a minute left, but can you speak to what has Pope Francis's thumbprint been on the College of Cardinals, and how does it compare to that of his predecessors?
Well, we know that he's continued the process of making it more global, increasing the presence. And this time he hasn't had so many Africans, but he has increased in the global South, and certainly in Latin America and in Asia, and also from places that were unlikely places, like Laos or Papua New Guinea, to make cardinals from those places. So that was already a trend, of course, but he's really boosted that trend. But what his own imprint is frequently, for example, the Archbishop of Milan is not a cardinal. That traditionally was always the case. The Archbishop of Los Angeles, the largest diocese in the United States, we know he's not a cardinal, and yet he'll make cardinals in places that are not traditional red hat sees, and that's another element of unpredictability. So that makes life interesting. It does raise a question of exactly what the cardinal's role is, because the men he chooses to be the pastors of the biggest local churches are not necessarily the people he wants to serve, choosing the next pope. It disrupts things, like many other actions that Pope Francis has taken.
Absolutely. Definitely always interesting. And Frank, as always, grateful for your expertise. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.